I'm now joined here on the Rich Eisen Show by two friends, and I'm pleased to be able to say that, and also even more thrilled to be able to say that their fantastic television show Billions returns for season 5 on Showtime at 9 Eastern and Pacific. The creators of this show, writers, creators, producers, they're the hyphenates galore, Brian Koppelman and David Levien. How are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Doing great, Rich. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you back here.
Rich, you're part of the family of the show, man. It is a special thing for us when somebody first of all, you've been this enthusiastic booster of the show since the very beginning.
Yes,
but more than that, you came to play. You were jammed too. It was not easy for you, and you turned your life inside out and came to New York. And then, you had to sit next to Bob Menery for 5 hours.
On air talent. We put him next to a maniac. It was hilarious.
And we all love Menery. He's the funniest man in the world. But your professionalism and heart that you brought to that thing, while Menery is next to you doing God knows what in between setups.
Well, I got to tell you, it was my pleasure to bring professionalism to easily the worst fight in the history of pugilism, I think.
That was the goal. That was the goal.
Dollar Bill versus Maffei. And the crazy thing is Kelly O'Coin, who plays Dollar Bill in the show, who I love.
Yes.
He broke his rib during the episode that was shot for the previous season, right? He broke his rib in that scene.
Well, I think we have to...
Maffei, who was playing a character that can't throw a punch, managed to throw the first punch in the right way and break the guy's rib right out of the gate. And then Kelly had to suffer through 9 hours of shooting with a broken rib.
If you think about it, we think of Maffei and the way we talk about him, this goofy thing. But I mean, Dan Soder is a big man. He's 6'2". He played high school football. He's a good athlete. And, I guess he got in there and those instincts just kind of took over. Though I guess the great athlete could pull the punch. Yeah.
You know what? And it was just a glorious day on the set. And then to watch the season play out and then just another brilliant season of your show. Billions again on Showtime that returns Sunday night at 9 Eastern, and it's just I can't wait for it. So Brian, why don't you go first? What can people expect this season? What is the plot line for this season?
Well, I'll say this. We left off last season with things at a pretty heightened place where Chuck and Taylor and Axe kind of realized their turn to get one another, and this season does pick up dealing with sort of where these loyalties sit. There are new characters who show up this year who are very important. There's a character named Mike Prince, played by Corey Stoll, who you might remember from any number of things. The first season of House of Cards, and he plays Hemingway in that Woody movie. And he's had his own show, The Stain. He's just an incredible actor, and he's a rival billionaire to Axe. And so now Axe has at least a 2-front and maybe a 3-front war going as Chuck is really mounting his attack. And then you have Taylor trying to figure out how they can come out on top. So there is a lot of rocking and a lot of rolling on this season. Dave, what do you got to add?
Well, how am I going to come after rocking and a rolling?
Well, this is what I try to, you know what it is? I just try to do this so that you can do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you did this and this for yourself. A rocking and a rolling. I'm going to leave it at that. I can't take it up from there.
You're saying I said it and I self-spiked?
Self-spiked.
So when this season begins, it picks up obviously where the last one ended. In terms of cameos, the sports stars that have been on this program have been remarkable. Durant, I think, made one last year. Do you have any more? Because the number of sports fans that are fans of your show, it's kind of a perfect Venn diagram overlapping.
Well, clearly, after you were on, we're going to take a big dip in the cameo department.
Yeah, thank you very much, David.
Tough to recover from that. But, we don't want to spoil any of the cameos, but we've been super lucky to have incredibly fascinating and talented people come on board as fans of the show. And if we can reach out to them through social media, or if Brian happens to know them as a close personal friend, then, we'll dragoon them into service on the show.
I will say, Dave, one of them is going to get spoiled ahead of time. So I think we can spoil it because he's in the trailer.
Okay.
He's in that look ahead trailer now. So, which will air Sunday, and his first episode is the following week. So we did get, and it's been incredible, actually incredible to us, guys our age, the human highlight film. Dominique Wilkins makes a great appearance this season.
So
And
Dominique Wilkins might beat. Okay, so Dominique Wilkins will appear on Billions maybe before The Last Dance, is what you're saying. But
well, they've shown him briefly in The Last Dance, I think, dunking maybe. But yes, he is, because I've watched all four. He's great. I'll say this. Neek comes to play as he always did.
So he plays above the rim on Billions, and he brings a two-handed rip type dunk performance.
He does. Dave, I think there's a rumor I heard that there was a horse game that happened.
Yeah, I think maybe between setups, a challenge was lobbed at him by one of the showrunners, and I think we were tight for time, so it wasn't horse. I believe it was pig. But how did that work out? How did that play out?
You know, now that you bring it up, I remember I played him in pig, and I destroyed him.
The shot was falling that day, wasn't it?
It was a crazy thing. 50 people are watching, and I went to the one-handed three-pointers. And this is the truth. He was at first not taking it too seriously, and then I made a couple of them in a row, and then somehow I beat him. And I was trying to get out of there because you know athletes, Rich. You know how they are.
Sure.
And I really did beat him in pig. And then I was like, "Well, this is great." And Nick goes, "No, it can't end like that." And I said, "Well, it just did. We got the P, the I, and the G. We're done now."
Right.
And he stands in front of the exit. He's like, "No, one more." And this was so great. And I stupidly went, all right. I mean, what am I going to say no to him? And he was so pissed that I beat him in front of everybody. By the way, the greatest guy in the world, literally among the sweetest, smartest guys. It's incredible the success that he is in life and everything. And you could see why, because then he went, one more. I missed. I shot first. I missed. He went to the half court line. And he just took 3 in a row. Boom, boom, boom. And just took me out at half court.
Brian Koppelman, David Levien, the co-creators, producers, writers of Billions on Showtime, that returns again Sunday night at 9 Eastern time, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. The show kind of got a little bit of a pop when the Mets purchase was up for conversation recently, and that the potential buyer of the Mets was your guys' inspiration for the Bobby Axelrod character on the show. Is there any truth to that rumor at all, Brian, David, that you are basing that act was based on?
A-Rod, you're talking about A-Rod now.
Not Alex Rodriguez. Definitely not Alex Rodriguez. Steve Cohen, I believe, the owner or he was a potential owner of the Mets. Is there any truth?
You know, that story was sort of floating around out there because he was in the press a lot when the show was just breaking. But the character's not based. None of the characters are based on any one individual. You know, they're fictional constructs. We've met and researched many people, both walks of life, you know, the prosecutorial side and the investment side. But it wouldn't be accurate to say that it's based on anybody and not Steve Cohen.
The only character we've ever based on one person in the whole history of our career was Joey Knish in Rounders, was based on a real guy named Joel Bagels. And that's it. That's the full extent of it.
In the history of you guys working together, that's the only guy that's
Knish. Knish is the guy. That's it.
Where is Knish these days? Do we know?
Sadly, we do.
Oh,
Passed away.
On to his reward.
Rounder. Not promised to be a long one sometimes, but he was a great guy and super generous with his, he was like our guide into the underground poker world in New York.
And he really did have the truck. You know how Matt Damon's character borrows the guy's pastry truck when he busts out and he's driving it? The real guy, it was called Joel Bagels because he had a pastry truck that he would loan out when guys were in trouble. It was all true. But other than that, we make it up. We combine people's, you take a characteristic from this guy, a notion from that, and you build an entirely new character.
We had Edward Norton on the show several months ago when he was on to promote Motherless Brooklyn, and he said that he would definitely be, and everybody would be interested in a Rounders update. Is there anything in the cards on that?
The cards, in the cards.
You like that?
Wow.
You like that?
Wow.
Can we turn and river this, mother?
That is professional broadcasting. That's what the difference is. That's that's how it gets separated out.
I only
Dave?
know one speed. What do you think?
Dave?
Is there I don't know if you're avoiding the question or because I love you guys. I'd love to see it. What do you think?
The question's a heartbreaker. You know, this is an idea that we've gathered up the participants and gotten ready to go numerous times over the years. We've had meetings with money people. We've been ready. And then, you know, this crazy sort of web of Hollywood rights happened where companies were sold and then other companies bought the underlying rights and then weren't ready to make movies. And honestly, it got so confusing. We just keep running into a brick wall with it. We have all the actors. We have John Dahl, the director, ready to go, but we can't just get a clear.
In fact, Mr. Malkovich wrote us yesterday, and not about that, but he wrote us yesterday just checking in on some stuff, saying hi. We talk to Matt frequently. We talk to Edward all the time. As you know, Malkovich was in Billions also. And so when someone comes to us where they say, we have the rights to the movie, we're ready to pay people to do it, we would all try to do it. But it's been very difficult to sort out. And, you know, Rich, every day somebody asks us online, and I have fun with it, with answering their question, but nobody would like to do that more than us. I mean, revisiting the characters who started our career, and we see the way people have bonded with these characters. You know, you walk around with Edward and Matt. I mean, that's still what people bring up to them. And Malkovich says the same thing, and it would be an honor to figure out how to do it if we ever could get it going.
Yeah, it does seem that, you know, Malkovich was channeling his inner Teddy KGB for your show. It seemed like he was kind of reprising that role in a slight bit.
We knew that the audience, like we did have him say the word satisfied once, like we knew the audience would make that connection, even though the characters were very different. And like, there were like long runs in certain poker sites where people were figuring out how they thought Teddy KGB went back to Russia, became an oligarch, and then came back here under a different, none of that's.
No, it's great. I mean, it'd be one of the all-time runs to go from a backroom card guy and in 20 years roll up $20 billion in Russia and then come back to buy the Islanders. A great run.
Well, you know, in the few minutes I have left with you here, the actors, actresses on your show are just so amazing. There, you know, obviously, Damian Lewis and Giamatti stand out. Maggie Siff is a favorite of mine. They're all terrific. Only one of them, however, is related to baseball royalty. And I'm wondering, and I know you guys are big sports fans again, does the subject of Paul Giamatti's dad ever come up on the set, or is that just something that's asked, answered?
I can answer it like this. You know, Paul lost his dad when his dad was young.
Right.
And so I think any conversations we have about Bart Giamatti are best left sort of like personal conversations. It's not really a part of the show. Once he had to reference Pete Rose, and he did it without on the show. Chuck Rhodes had to mention Pete Rose,
right?
And he did, and we just all kind of played through it.
Yeah, I mean, and I kind of feel a little bit like a heel even asking the question, because it is such a personal thing. But you know, he's such an amazing actor, and he is, to me, one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, and his father was a legend. His father is one of the greatest guys. I mean, everybody who ever comes up to me to talk about Bart Giamatti for this reason, they always have an amazing personal story about a way that Bart Giamatti touched their lives, changed their lives. He was clearly a great man. And I think Dave, we both agree, it would have been great to get to know that guy, because his son is one of the greatest guys in the whole world.
Absolutely. Occasionally somebody on set who's been to Yale or knew his dad will come up and share an anecdote with him, and it means a lot to him. You can see how he touches people, and Paul loves hearing about it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Just you know, anybody whose dad would pass away would love to hear when they came across, you know, or a story like that. And I don't know. I'm just curious as to if he, you know, talks about it, or if it's anything like that, because it is such an important part of sports history and what a role his father did play.
No, of course. Yeah, I wish I would have. I truly, the way people talk about that guy, even, you know, the golf writer Michael Bamberger, he, you know, the great golf writer, just wrote that great book about Tiger Woods. So Bamberger was on my podcast recently, and we know each other. We're friendly, and he knew Bart Giamatti. Bart Giamatti changed his life. Basically, Bart Giamatti and Paul made that guy want to be a writer. He had stories for days about how incredible Bart Giamatti is. So you do hear that everywhere. But as I say, Paul keeps that stuff mostly to himself.
So the future of Billions, for those who may not know, is this the penultimate season? There's going to be one more. Do you want to make more? What can you tell us about Billions?
Partner?
I hope never ends. David.
Well, we're ready to keep rolling. We'll keep doing it as long as it's fresh and exciting to us, and as long as the network wants to keep going. And it seems like that's firing on both sides. They don't order it many years in advance. We only go one at a time, but we are not planning on wrapping it up anytime soon, from our end of it.
I can imagine, as long as there's greed, and as long as there's capitalism, and as long as that's a driving force for a lot of people in this world, I kind of think you guys have a ton of stuff to work with, right?
I don't think greed is going anywhere soon. I mean, capitalism looked a little rocky for a minute there, but it's probably okay now that Bernie didn't get the nomination.
Well, and I do know, obviously, and we could begin to wrap up our conversation maybe around this, is what is going on in this world. I'm talking to you right now from the corner of my desk that I did all of my NFL draft coverage, and how immensely popular that it was, and to have you guys now with your series come in right now, it is just perfectly timed for people who want to lose themselves in that. But that said, at some point, everyone will get back to work, and so will the industry that you guys are so prevalent in. And then I imagine there will be stories, and everything will be run through the prism of what we're going through right now. I'm fascinated to know what Bobby Axelrod and Chuck Rhodes' life would be in a coronavirus or post-COVID-19 world.
So are we. That'll be. We will start writing season 6 over the summer, and we put all the stuff that's going on in the world, into the hopper, and we'll figure it out. Certainly. Look, I just look at Dave and I talk about this all the time. It's funny. Someone just texted Dave and me earlier today to say, how you doing? And Levien, I thought your answer was perfect. And it's like beside the point how we're doing. I mean, there's so many people hurting, man. It's like, and that was Dave was just saying that to a buddy. It's like, we're all, the three of us are all in a pretty good spot here. We have jobs that we like doing, and we have some food on the table in a house. And so when we get back into it, figuring out how these characters are processing it and what's going on will be certainly fascinating thing to do. Right now, I think the two of us are thinking a lot about just people and seeing online the way people talk about being excited about the show coming back. If that gives them an hour or two of distraction and like some joy, then that feels great to us, and lucky to be able to be a part of that for people. It's it's such an intense and strange time for so many people. And the only way I can look at what our show might bring is how much I miss sports. I miss what sports give me, the ability to concentrate on something outside of my life, something that takes me away. I miss marveling at what athletes can do under pressure. And, I can't wait for that to come back. I know, David, you feel the same way. And I can't, I'm thrilled that our show can be that for some people.
David, appreciate it. Brian, appreciate it. Really appreciate your time here. Thanks so much. I can't wait for the beginning of your show coming up Sunday, 9 Eastern time, every Sunday night on Showtime. Billions is just a brilliant program. I can't recommend it highly enough. People should binge watch it if they haven't caught up. And if they've caught up, my wife and I will spend a little part of this weekend catching up, just to make sure that we're as fresh as a daisy when
that's awesome.
Hits.
Thanks so much, Rich. Thanks for being such a friend of the show and friend to us. We really appreciate it.
You got it. You got it. That's Brian Koppelman. That's David Levien of Billions on Showtime right here on the Rich Eisen Show.